Thank you for joining. I want to resize this here. And make sure, yeah, okay. So yeah, thank you for joining. My name is Eric Farmer. I'm with the Tennessee Student Assistance Corporation, or Tennessee Higher Education Commission, TSAC. I've been with them since 2009. I also have experience in higher education since 1999 with Tennessee Tech University as admissions counselor and Moore College Design in their admissions office, and I was their first director of member relations, which is their retention office. Well, Moore is no longer around, actually around, but it's now part of Belmont University in Nashville, and so they kind of merged. But I am now with TSAC, and like I said, I've been with them since 2009. Normally, I talk about talk to students about how to pay for college using scholarships and grants and the whole financial aid process. But today, I get to talk about if you have a loan, how to get loans, and how to pay them off, and what you want to talk about. So this is going to be loan heavy. At the end, I'm trying to keep this short. At the end, we'll have a Q&A and definitely ask questions then. I am, like I said, I normally talk about how to get money for college on the front end, and don't normally talk about the tail end. And like you might have heard me tell the story about how I got into this with the money schools solely by accident. And I guess I did a good enough job to where they kept coming, asking me to come back. So the information that you hear here today is just me doing research and me going through this process myself. Just transparent. My loans at one point were in default. Life happens, and you get busy, and you don't do some of the stuff I'm going to talk about today. And next thing you know it, my loans were in default while I was working with TSAC. And so it's kind of somewhat embarrassing because, you know, I'm talking about how to pay money, how to pay for college, and I am dealing with defaulted loan. And so hopefully my experiences can help you either get out of default or keep you from getting into default and getting out of it. So anyway, so we're gonna talk about applying for loans, different types of loans, repayment trouble, and default. Of course, you know, if you're trying to go to college or whatnot, the application for the loan program is the FAFSA. You can do it online at FAFSA.gov. There's now a mobile app as well. And so you can use that. Just keep in mind the FAFSA, the two-step process. You have to create an FSA ID. And like I said, I typically talk to students and parents, but I see that we have mainly adults. So if you're the one that's trying to go to college, you'll need something called an FSA ID. You go to fsad.ed.gov, create that, then go back in and enter that FAFSA information there. When creating the FSA ID, you will need a username, password, username, password, people enter, here they go. Username, password, email address, telephone number, things like that. Can you see the stuff dropping down? But you can see, can you see the whole screen with nothing, no interruptions, nothing blocking it or anything like that? Okay, good. Because I got stuff popping up. That's great. All right. So so you need their email address, create a username. You all have challenge questions you have to answer as well. When you complete FAFSA, you need a social security number, driver's license, tax information. Depending on which FAFSA you complete, you need the tax information, records of untaxed income, and records of assets and things like that. We'll skip that. So when you pull out a loan, you are pulling out either a subsidized, unsubsidized, or parent plus. It's for yourself, it's going to be a subsidized or unsubsidized. Subsidized means the federal government is paying your interest while you're in college. Right now, if you pull the loan out, it is a 2.75 fixed rate. And they dropped this rate because of COVID and everything like that. And so this is, I think it's even part of the CARES Act of why they have the interest rate that's so low. So decide that you are going to school and you need to pull out a loan, and this is the we've even talked about TSAC. This is actually the lowest loan rate it's been in years. If you're going to pull out a loan, this is the time to do it. Now, also in saying, if you don't have to take off a loan, don't do it. Don't do it, because you're going to have to pay it back. But if you're going to pull out a loan, this is the time, because the interest rates have not been quite this low in a long time. And so when you complete the FAFSA, you are going to be offered a loan amount. It's either going to be subsidized, which means the government will pay your interest while you're in school, or unsubsidized, which means you're responsible for the interest while you're in school. So that means the interest is going to be accruing while you're in school. And so when you graduate or stop going, you'll have whatever loan amount that you pulled out, plus the interest that's on top of it. Depending on what your school level is, depends on how much you can get out and how much your subsidized and unsubsidized loan max will be. What's in blue is what's unsub total. So in other words, that first year, if you're going to school for the first time, you get a max loan of $5,500. Now, if you qualify for subsidized, $3,500 of that will be subsidized. The remaining would be unsub, and so forth. But if you don't qualify for subsidized, the full amount will be unsub of the either 55, 65, or 75. Okay? Now, repayment. Repayment typically is done 6 months after you graduate, withdraw, drop to below half time. You can find out what your repayment is in the student database, or National Student Loan Database System, NSLDS. If you have an FSA ID, this is how you'll still log into the database system. So it's really, really important to have an FSA ID because not only does it help you pay for the start the FAFSA and the FAFSA application, but also afterwards you can see what your first payment is, who's your servicer information, anything like that. If you can, you want to start making those payments early, even possibly while you're in school, so that your interest amounts do not incur, and so you can kind of keep that the total loan balance low. If you have any trouble, you can request a deferment. If you plan on going back to school, so let's say you during this COVID time, you've gone to college, maybe got some type of essential degree, and you plan on going back, or maybe got an associate's degree and you plan on going to get a bachelor's, or you got your bachelor's and plan on going back to do something else. If you plan on going back, you can request an in-school deferment. That will keep you from having to pay your loans while you're in school. However, just keep in mind, anytime you do a deferment of some sort, the interest is still occurring during that time period. You're not responsible to pay back anything, but it's still going to grow during that time. So I would recommend that even if you do a deferment, still pay a little something on it to keep that amount low. And you can contact your loan servicer if you can't afford your payments. There's also some programs you might be able to qualify for, such as income-based, a graduated payment where it might start off low at the beginning and then increase as you go through. And actually, there's one that's in reverse as well. So just depending on what your income is and what you can pay, typically your service can work with you. Speaking of payments, there's the standard payment. It's 10 years, 120 monthly payments. Your payments are going to be a minimum of $50 per month until the loan is paid off. There's a maximum 10-year term for Stafford and Plus loans with a 3-year extension if I spelled loan wrong. The loan remains after the interest rate. Sorry about that. And then, this is what you're automatically entered in once you go back into repayment. Okay, so it's a standard payment, 10 years, 120 months. And I know that's a long time for some student loans, but that's the standard, and it's the best way to know how to keep it as low as possible. It's a graduated payment where you have lower payments and they increase over time, like I mentioned. No payment is more than 3 times the lowest payment. and the payments will be covering your interest at the minimum. Once again, it's a maximum 10-year, and like as it goes up, as you go through the time, just remember your payments will increase over time. And then there's also an extended repayment plan, just in case you have more than $30,000 worth of debt. They'll extend it to 25 years. And it's, it can be fixed or graduated payments over time. But the cost over time is a lot higher because you still have that interest rate as well. And then there's also the income-driven repayment plan, and it's pay as you earn. So periodically, they're going to ask what your income is, and it might adjust based upon that. So you want to make sure that you keep in contact with your servicer, just so that if you are in income-based plans, they'll know, they can keep you in the same plan, or if you have trouble and whatnot, you can kind of stay steady with it. So if you have trouble with paying your loan, just remember there's a deferment which temporarily stops the payment. There's different types. There's economic hardship. So if you lose your job, or you have a pay decrease, or your hours get cut, there's something like that. If you go back to school, there's a deferment plan for that. Like I said, if you become unemployed, if you go serve with the military, and even if you volunteer for the Peace Corps, there's ways you can defer your payments. But like I said, if you go through deferment, your interest rate is still accruing during that time. So it's not like everything stops. You're just no longer responsible to make that payment. They're not going to force you to make that payment right then. So if you don't make a payment, it's all good. If you happen to make a payment, that's good as well. That's positive as well. A forbearance is also a temporary stop of payment, but there's actually something a little different. So if you're currently experiencing financial difficulty, but you're not eligible for deferment, you might qualify for forbearance. And the forbearance is actually determined by the loan servicer, not by you. So if you possibly what you try to do is go through a deferment, because you have a little more control. If you go through a forbearance, it's more on the loan servicer. The main difference between deferment is that you may not be responsible for paying interest that occurs on subsidized loans during the deferment period. But so what you definitely want to do is try to do that through deferment if you do have a subsidized loan. But if you don't, deferment or forbearance is actually going to be about the same. The one thing, though, in any case, if you have any trouble, is communication is going to be the key. You have to communicate with your loan servicer, no matter what's going on. They're going to contact you. They're going to email you. They'll send you letters. Call them. Let them know what's going on. Communication is the key. And the reason why I say that is from my personal experience. Communication, I stopped communicating with my loan servicer. And so they could not tell me, they did not know what was going on with Eric Farmer. And so because of that, Eric Farmer was put in default. Still, I did not communicate with him. And then eventually, Eric Farmer had his check garnished. So you definitely want to communicate, because once that happens, it's the amount they can pull out is going to be a percentage of what your income is. And that percentage, you might hear the percentage and go, oh, that's not that much. But the minute they take it out, you're like, wait a second, that's actually that's a hit on your check. So you don't want to get to the part where they start garnishing your check. Communication is the key, and I'm telling you this from experience. Call them. If you're in default now, start talking to them. Start saying, hey, what can I do? Well, if it's default, that means you have stopped paying on the loan, it's delinquent, and it's been a long time period since you've actually talked to them. It could be as few as 9 months that you haven't done any type of payment or communication with them. Default is still not the end all. You can get yourself out of it. So don't think that once you're in default, it's all over. There's other ways to get out of it. But the consequences of default is, not being able to go into forbearance or a flexible payment or deferment. They could garnish your wages, just like I said. If you have a refund check coming, they can seize your refund check. The balance could be increased due to collection costs. You could be, it could affect your credit score. You can go into collections, and then you can be sued for the entire amount. Jamie, I see that you raised your hand. Let's see.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
Okay. That's fine. So, just kind of keep that in mind. If you get in default, there's some dangers to it. But like I said, it's still not the end all. There are ways to get out of it. Yeah. How do you, let me go back. How do you get out of default? Well, one, you can pay the full loan off. More likely, you can't do that at the time. You can just say, hey, at the time, my loan was $12,000. I was like, hey, I got $12,000 in my pocket. I'm just gonna pay this off. Didn't do that. You can do loan rehabilitation or loan consolidation. Loan rehabilitation is actually you communicating with your servicer and setting up a payment plan to get everything back into a non-default state. You typically have to make non-payments in a 10-month period. And once you do that, you'll be taken out of default into a regular status. At that point, you'll get your, you'll have the ability to go back into forbearance or the other term that I can't think of right now.
Deferment.
Deferment, thank you. Why? Deferment. Thanks, Jay. I'm glad you had my back there. The deferment, and you'll get your privileges back. And if you need to, go back to school, everything's fine. This is fairly easy, but I will say this: I tried this and I messed up because everything was going fine, and I hit a financial hardship. And so I missed actually 2 payments within that 10-month period, and I had to start over again. And so just kind of keep that in mind, that it's going to, that payment plan, that they stick to it. You have to do it. And also, so let's say you do the non-consecutive payment, the non-payments within the 10 months. So you're like, sweet, I can stop paying now. You can't. You still got to keep doing those payments that you agreed to. Until you get a letter saying that you're out of default, and so just kind of keep that in mind. If you do this real rehabilitation, yes, you have to do that non-payment within a 10-month period, but you still got to do those payments that you agreed upon. It's a voluntarily reasonable amount. In other words, let's say you say, I can do $150 per month for the next 9 months. You do that. In month 10, you still need to make that payment. In month 11, you still need to make that payment. Until you get that letter saying that you're out of default, you make that agreed upon payment until that point. Consolidation might be a little easier. And I'll say that in the fact, what ends up happening is that you take your loan and they kind of reservice it, okay? You have to make 3 consecutive voluntary on-time full month payments before they can consolidate it. And so once you make 3 payments, and then you go, hey, you're eligible for loan consolidation. It's gonna be a new plan, new term, possibly even a new servicer. And so everything is set up as a new term. The interest rate is gonna be different. However, it immediately pulls you out of default. When everything, as you go through loan consolidation, things are working to where you no longer have to make any payments if you go into that process. And that's the process I actually went through with my master's loans. So even after I went through default with my undergrad, I still had loans in default because that was my master's. And so I actually took care of that during the loan consolidation. It sets you up to a little bit, to me, it was more beneficial for me to do that at the time. And actually I did it at a great time at the beginning of this COVID. Because what ended up happening is I was supposed to go back into repayment in, I think, May. And the CARES Act hit. And if you don't know anything about the CARES Act, it pushed the payment from, I think, April, May to September. And then our president pushed it back again to December with no interest. And so if you can get into a repayment now or a consolidation now, this would be the time to do so. Because if you can get it in now, you have some time before you have to actually start paying stuff back. Now, because right now, the interest rates on those loans are 0%. So what you want to do is try to get that either consolidation or the rehab, and that way you do not have to make a payment and your interest is not accruing right now. However, highly recommend making payments because everything that you pay on is going to be principal based, no interest. So you can actually get that amount down low. So when you actually the interest starts accruing again, it's not accruing at a higher principal, it's accruing at a lower principal. Okay. So this is where I got all this information. Like I said earlier, I am not the loan expert. I did my research on these websites. Some of it was through my own personal experience. But if you have any questions, my organization, TSAC, do have loan officers in there and individuals who have been in the financial aid realm for many years. So you can have a situation that I've never heard of. And if that's the case, I will contact them or forward that information to them or get you in contact with them as well. This is my information. Eric.farmer@tn.gov is my email address. My telephone number 423-326-7198. So it is a Chattanooga area code. But I live here in Middle Tennessee. Murfreesboro, Chattanooga is part of my territory. And I know that kind of with a lot of information and whatnot. So if you email me, I can send you a PDF copy of this presentation as well.
Cool. Well, thanks so much, Eric. That was awesome. But now we're gonna go into a Q&A little bit of a session. So if you guys do have questions now, feel free to unmute yourself, ask your question. We still have some time left in this session, so take advantage of that. If you'd like, go for it.
Eric, I threw one on the chat. Just whenever you went through consolidation process, do you know what kind of impact that had on your credit score, making that transition?
Not initially, because I haven't had to make a payment yet either. I don't think it removed. I can't remember because I know it did something to it because I remember seeing it. I remember going to I have Credit Karma, and I remember checking Credit Karma, and it had a little notation next to it about with my old loans. But I don't remember how my credit score reacted to it. But I'll do some more research and see if I can find that information out for you.
What if you went to one school and they told you your student loan would be one amount, but once you got the overall bill, it's higher than what they told you it's going to be?
So did you pull the loan or did you use the loan?
I did. I used it in my master's program.
All right.
Okay, well,
I
just
don't-
tell me how to get some money to pay it all off. That's what you can do. Tell me how to pay it all off.
So I was going to say this. You probably couldn't, because you pulled it, there's probably nothing you can do because you probably signed something saying that you're okay with this amount, unless the amount you signed for is on the paper or the document is one amount, and the amount you got was something else. If you have proof of that, then yes, there's something you can do. But if it's going to be, if what you have signed for is exactly the same, there's probably nothing you can do. The only option I have for it getting paid for is if it's in a satisfactory state, just continue to do.
It is. I'm in good standing. I just wanted for it to be wiped away.
Okay, so there are some loan forgiveness programs out there depending on what you do. But the
I
thing
applied for the public service one. I'm still waiting for something back.
Okay, so yeah, so you're in the that's the one that I want to talk about. But even with the loan forgiveness program, you still have to do 10 years of payments.
I'm at my 8-year mark, so I'm almost there.
So here's the deal. Okay, so you've paid on it before for 8 years, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but you're not in the loan forgiveness program right now, right?
No.
Okay, here's the kicker. You're gonna think this is crazy. It's 10 years from the time that you enter the program. So you already have 8.
True.
You got 10 more to do in order for those loans to be forgiven.
What? Oh no! I'm gonna have to get a 5th job or something. I don't know. Too much.
So remember, it maxes out at 10 years. So it's supposed to be 10 years, 120 payments. Once you get closer to that, start talking to your servicer. Say, hey, I'm almost at 10 years. Am I going to pay this all off by doing these payments? See what can be done. You might be able to do a consolidation with the loan amounts being as low as they are. If you do a consolidation now, you might be able to save yourself some interest in the long term. Just talk to your servicers. See what kind of things that it can do for you, to where it can over the remaining of your term of your loan, you can get that cost to come down. So, now,
okay, thank you.
I'm not sure if it starts the 10 year. If you do the income based, I don't know if it'll start that 10-year payment from that point. But just talk to them. That's like I said, communication is the key. Talk to your servicer, see what you can do to better, to increase the loan payment over the term of the loan.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
The first one, when you get the loan, and let's say you don't want the money. I mean, everybody want money, but let's say you have to pay it back, and you choose not to get the money that time. Just go back towards that loan. You still have to pay that back, or it brings your loan down. No.
If you don't take out the loan, you don't pay it back.
I mean, you got approved for it, but then you don't want the extra, like that 5,000 or 2,000. You decide to send it back, so I don't have to pay that back. It brings my loan total down, right?
Right. So if you don't let's say you fill out the FAFSA and they offer you the $5,500.
Right.
You say, I don't want the $5,500. I don't want the loan at all. That means you never took that loan out, and
I want to go back towards my account. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So what it does, it's still sitting there for you to use, but you don't have to do anything with it because it's just sitting there. You haven't pulled it out. You haven't used it. So there's no repayment. There's no repayment on it until you use it.
Oh.
So even though you applied for it and it's sitting on your bill. If you accept it, that's when you pay it back. But if you don't accept it and it's still, sitting there, it's still there for you to use, you don't have to pay it back. Get it?
Oh, so it's best to just go ahead and accept it.
No.
Oh, no.
If you don't need it, don't accept it.
Okay. And the
So
other quick question,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. The other question I was going to ask is it best to just go ahead and pay your loan every 2 weeks when you get paid than versus just waiting a month every month when it come out?
Yeah, honestly, if
you get it paid off quicker like that?
If you can do that, go for it. If you can make a payment every 2 weeks on it, go for it. Because what you're doing, and if it's the same amount of your monthly pay. So let's say your monthly payments were $50 a month. Let's say you paid $50 every 2 weeks.
Okay.
You're gonna cut that time not just in half, because what you're doing is the other 50 is actually going toward the principal. And that's what you want to do. You want to make sure that you say this is a principal payment on that extra payment. And that way, what that does is it goes straight to the principal, because that payment is not required. That extra payment is not required. What's required is that 1 month, that one monthly payment is required. The extra payment, you said, hey, I need to put to my principal. So what you're doing is you're decreasing your principal amount to where that interest is not hitting as much on that principal. So over the long term,
tell them you want to pay towards your interest, the principal.
Yeah, so you tell them that so if you do 2 payments in a month, especially if the 2 payments are the same, if that second payment is the same amount as what's required of you. So for example, let's say you're required to pay $50 a month, and you end up paying $50 every 2 weeks. Okay. The $50, extra $50, you want to let them know that is a principal payment. And that's actually with any loan. If you decide any loan like that, like if car payments, mortgages, any type of loan that you have like that, if you're paying extra, that extra payment, you need to let them know this is a principal payment.
That's thank you for that information. That's helpful.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay.
Now,
Wow.
did you practice that? No. Because up until recently, I did not have the money to do principal payments like that.
You might also too look at when your interest rate is credited toward your account, if it's monthly or if it's a daily interest rate that's credited. So even if that $50 you can't double, but you split it into 225s, if it's a daily interest rate accrued, that's still helping you out because you're knocking that down faster and you're not getting those other 15 days of accrued interest.
That is correct.
And when you do this also help your credit too, right?
It could potentially, yes, because what you're doing is you're showing that you are responsible for your payments, yes. And you're knocking down your loan faster as well. So it's got some positives to it. So yeah, if you can do 2 payments a month on your payment, if you can double up on it, or if you can split it like JR says, and when it if it's a daily interest accrual, it's all positive. What's negative is delinquency.
So this is Crystal, sorry. So does this same logic apply to credit cards and other things, or is it just loans?
I would think so, because there's interest rates based upon credit cards too. So if you can, because credit cards are done on interest is done, is it 30 days, 20 something days, something like that? And so if you can make that double payment on the credit cards, I mean, it'll deflate the interest quickly. I mean,
I never knew that. That is awesome. I make double payments, but I don't feel like I'm getting the benefit out of it, or as fast as it should be decreasing. So that's really good. Thank you.
You're welcome. So one thing I have learned about credit card payments, you never pay the minimum. Because if you pay the minimum on a credit card payment, it's actually set up to where if you pay the minimum on the credit card payments, you'll be paying interest forever. it is set up to where that minimum payment is making them money. You always want, you know, for it to be beneficial, you need to double up on your credit card payments.
I do.
Or pay it, or if you buy something, pay it off at the end of, you know, before you get that bill. That credit, so like you use that credit card as a what I call it?
Cash alternative.
Yeah, a short-term loan. It's not even a loan because it's not even interest. So you buy it, a week later you need to pay it off, or that gives you time to get your money together, because credit cards are the worst. I don't care what your interest rate is. They're set up to where if you pay that minimum payment, you're not going to see that. It's going to be a slow, very slow decrease in your overall bill.
Okay. Back to the loans. Okay, I'm at Chat State. I'm almost through with Chat State. And one time I was at Virginia College years ago. Why is trade school loan always more? Your loan for a trade school costs way expensive. Your loan, what you got to pay back, then going to Chat State. You owe them like going to a university.
Well, first of all, Virginia College is a lot more than Chat State, because of the type of school it is.
Even though the trade school, it's outrageous what they charge people.
Yeah, it is. It is. But being in the field that I am, so my philosophy is a school is for everybody. So Virginia College, it could be for somebody that's not, where Chat State's not, you know, like not everybody's set up and built for Chat State or UTC or Virginia College. That's why they have all these out here. However, because of what Virginia College was a for-profit school. Can't speak this morning. For-profit school, so they're in it to make money. They're in it to make money. They're in to give you a trade, but they're also in it to make money. And so they're going, you know, and plus they're not a state entity. They're a private entity. So they're not getting any help from state dollars to run their facility. So they got to pay for everything out of pocket. You know, anything that's generated from the students is helping to pay and keep them going. So that's why it's so much higher.
Gotcha.
And also, some of their loans are not with the federal government. They're private sources. So their interest rates are pretty different as well. And so I don't ever knock a career school like that. Like I know there's still Chattanooga College down there and other schools, because like I said, those schools might be a great fit for certain students. Just be aware that they do cost more. And if you can pay out of pocket, like, you know, payment plans do so to keep that loan amount low. But, you know, but with the same with the loans, even with their loans, with the Virginia College, you can still look at the servicer, still see what's going on, still see if there's any plans dealing with income-based or graduated or things like that, so that you can, you know, potentially pay it off. If you need to consolidate it, consolidate it.
Okay. Okay.
How much does a student loan, how can it affect you buying a home?
Well, as long as the student loan is in good standing, you should be fine. The minute it goes into default, it kind of hits your credit score. Or if you start becoming delinquent on it, it'll hit your credit score, and that can affect it. As long as a student loan is just like, you know, any other loan. If you when you initially pull it out, it's nothing. You don't see it at all on your credit score. It's only when you go back into repayment is when you start seeing it on your credit. Because there's nothing to report while you're in school and pulling it out. That's when you get into repayment is when you start seeing it show up. And if you stay in the positive portion of repayment, you're good to go. If you go to delinquent or default, that's when, or even garnishment, that's when it'll be negative on your credit score. good questions. And send me an email so I can email you that answer to the question you asked me earlier.
Oh, about the credit score consolidation?
It just hit me. I was like, oh, I need to get his email, so I'm not going to contact him.
Yeah, I'll send you something. I was going to say, I work as a financial associate for Thrivent, and so I do a lot of conversations with folks about using 529 plans as a way to pay for school, because everything that you can do on the front end is reducing what you're going to have to pay on the back end more than dollar for dollar, right? Because you're going to be charged those interests on the backside. So I just curious if you had a take on 529s, if you're a fan.
I think they're great, to be honest, because I see some benefits of them. So the 529 is a college savings plan, for those who don't know. It typically is pulled out for high school students. You know, like someone might pull it out for a child or whatnot, but it can be used for anybody. One of the benefits is that, so let's say you are a parent that has multiple children and you start the 529 for the first kid. If the first kid doesn't use the full 529, it can go to the next kid and so forth. And, you know, so if the money's still available. Another benefit is, let's say your kids are geniuses and they get everything paid for and they didn't have to dip into that 529 at all. You can roll that 529 to a 401k for you as part of your retirement. Or you can use that 529 for you to go to college because you're the one that pulled it out. So there's all kinds of benefits for it as well. Now, the one thing that people see them get angry about is that when you fill the FAFSA, the 529 is considered an asset. And so it's a ding against the EFC that determines if you qualify for need-based money. So like for the Pell Grant and maybe the state grant. And so if you have a 529 and sitting there waiting to help your kid, you're more than likely not gonna get the federal Pell Grant or the state grant.
Hey, Eric, this is Crystal. Thank you for that information, but can you spell what you're saying? Are you saying file 29, or I just wanted to write it down?
529.
Okay, 529. Thank you for that.
Yeah. JR just put in the chat. It's a 529 account. And the cool thing is, so Tennessee has one, and other states have them as well. And there's different benefits with each one. So you don't have to, so even though you're a Tennessee resident, you don't have to pick the one from Tennessee to use in Tennessee, and actually vice versa. So if your child or you decide to go out of state, you can use the Tennessee one and use that one out of state. So it's not state, or let me phrase that, most of them are not state specific. Is that right? They are?
Yeah, most of them are pretty portable state to state. I don't know if I know an exception to that even.
I'm only saying that because I want to be careful. There could be one out there.
And when you're looking at 529 plans, there are some things where you can apply directly. Just go to your state's website and apply and get enrolled in the account. And then there are ones that I deal with that are advisor funds, where we help you set what the investment profile of that's going to look based off of your time horizon, all of that. So there's kind of two different ways to go there. One way you get some advice, and the other way you just get in and do it yourself. The other thing I was going to say,
Thank you.
I have conversations, like Eric mentioned, it affects the equation to how much you're responsible to pay for school. And so I talk to folks about using grandparents as a resource, because the school equation is going to use the parents' assets and it's going to use student assets. Now, the nice part about 529s is they can be used as a parent asset and be charged a lot less at 5.6%. But if the grandparents own that account, that doesn't even go into your equation.
So JR, this is Crystal. So, okay, with that, they don't require for the tax information that your parents claimed you as a child. Would they not require the same information for your grandparents?
Not for the grandparents.
Whenever, yeah, and Eric might be able to answer this a little bit better. As you go through the FAFSA and you fill out all the information and the data, they're going to ask for asset information. They're going to ask for tax information and all of that. They're going to ask for it by the student and by the parent, but the grandparents' information is not taken into that calculation.
That is correct.
I never knew that. That's interesting. Thank you.
So if you have kids, I want you to keep that in mind. I'm not telling you what to do. I want you to keep that in mind.
Yeah. The other nice thing with, and I know I'm sounding like I'm toting 529s all over the place, but the other nice thing is that anyone can contribute, right? So grandparents, godparents, aunts, uncles, anybody who wants to, if you got a baby that's 1, 2, 3 years old, it's sometimes hard to figure out what to give as a gift, right? But if you can gift $25 or $50 into their 529 account and that sits there for 20 years and just grows, that's helpful.
So, okay, this is all good information. So I can start one now, you're saying, for my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How old's your daughter?
Okay. She's 9 years old.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, sometimes I'll even talk to newly married couples, right? Don't have any children yet. You could set up a 529 account in your name. And then once the child is born and has a social security number, you set them as the beneficiary. You've already had an account before they were even born.
That's awesome.
So I know this is supposed to be about loans and paying them off.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No. What I'm about to say is, do this at the beginning. Like, if you have kids, if you have this, doing stuff like this keeps you from taking out loans later on, and that's the key. That's why I'm sitting here, because that's what I do. Like I said, I don't normally talk about the front end. I rarely talk about the back end. So if you can do that type of stuff, you're set. I mean, it doesn't take a lot.
These are all. These are all valuable points. This is a really good discussion. Thank you, guys.
Welcome. We need to be a team, JR.
I know. We need to get together on something. Make it work. I was going to say, the other thing I was excited about the CARES Act bringing down the interest rate to, was it 2.75? That's extremely reasonable. I know a year or 2 years ago, it was more like 7% for most folks. So
I think before the CARES Act, the direct loan was 4.75.
Okay.
The Parent Plus was 8 something or 7 something, and so right when the CARES Act hit and they dropped the rates, we all of us at TSAC or my colleagues were like, I might need to go back to school because this is, we even said, hey, let's go back to school, pay out of pocket, put that, we started thinking about investments type stuff, and it was crazy how we started working, how I started thinking, because the interest rate hadn't been this low in a while.
Because if I can run investment accounts that are going to generate 5 to 7 to 9%, just pay that off. Just pay that loan off as you need to, but keep it, let it sit there.
Right.
Some places I think debt is good debt. Sometimes student loans, if you've got a good rate, that qualifies as good debt. Mortgages sometimes, with rates so low right now, qualify as good debt. Just pay it off and invest the rest.
Okay. So I had a question in chat. If someone completed a degree during the COVID 2020 forbearance, when will his, let me see it again. Hold up. Do you know how, when capitalization of my student loan will occur? No, don't know when, don't know how. However, what I'm gonna do is log into the NSLDS. I'll put up the website again. So the National Student Loan Database System, NSLDS, you want to go there so you can figure out who your loan servicer is. But also there, you might see where the repayment will begin and what the interest rate and things like that are. Right now, the interest rate is 0. So if you actually end up going back into repayment during this period, the interest rate is 0 because how all the because of the COVID forbearance, you know. And so if you just want to start paying on it now, figure out your servicer, who you need to contact, where it's in the payment, and start putting in the payment now to get that principal down to where when it does kick in and you do have the regular interest rate, your principal is not as high as it was before. But contacting your servicer would be the one that I would figure out when all that's going to come to play. And they might not know because of the forbearance got extended. The repayments will start in September and they got pushed back again to December. I guess we're good for most of the presentation. Sorry, talking to the dog again. He jumped. Sorry.
All right, well, it's almost 12. We have like 1 more minute. So I'm gonna go ahead and say thank you, Eric, again. That was super great. Awesome information. But really quick, I'm gonna send this poll. I'm launching it right now. It should pop up on your screen if you guys wouldn't mind just taking that super quick. And then once everyone takes it, I'll end it and you guys will be good to go.
God.